Richard Feynman, the great physicist, said that every physicist should put this number 1 over 137 on a board and wear it, because this fine structure constant, 1 over 137, appears throughout physics. And if this thing is off by 4%, you don't get carbon and oxygen formed. It's just vital to chemistry. And there are lots of these. Obviously, the fine-tuning argument is what finally pushed me to theism.
Welcome to the Creation Today show, where we bring together interviews with experts and solid Bible teaching. Your host, Eric Hovind, affirms the ultimate authority of God's Word, the truth of creation, and why it matters to you.
So what happens when the very worldview that you've built your life on starts to crumble beneath your feet? Today's guest is currently an atheist, but not the kind you might expect. Bill spent years in the church, and after having 30 years in the church, he left the church and now enjoys discussions around the things of faith and of science. Loves having conversations with Christians. He's the co-teacher, I guess you would call it, in the Christian Atheist book club. But he's in favor of atheism now. And after getting an education through all the books that they read, one every single month, he's become increasingly vocal about his doubts of atheism. He sees some real problems with it. In fact, I would dare say, and I'll be curious if he says this, he might even be having a crisis of faith. So in this episode, we're going to dive deep into the cracks that are forming in the foundation of atheism, all the way from the problem of morality to the hunger for meaning and truth that atheism just doesn't provide. It doesn't give a satisfactory answer for. Could it be possibly that the loudest voices against God are actually the closest to finding him? This is going to be a real and raw, honest conversation, hopefully eye-opening, no matter where you're at on your journey through this life. Welcome to the Creation Today show, guys. I am your host, Eric Hovind. We do these shows in order to help turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones on your journey to know God more. And it really is a pleasure to have you joining us. I got my friend Bill Kluck on here. He's part of the Christian Atheist Book Club. Bill, how you doing today?
Hey, pretty good, Eric. It's been a while, 2 years since I've seen you, and you were so nice to put me up in Pensacola. And I'm looking forward to playing you in pickleball, and I will give you a 9-point advantage and buy you dinner if I lose, okay?
Whoa, that is quite the challenge. All right, I've only played pickleball one time, so you have definitely, and it was because of you, by the way.
I like the odds in my favor, Eric.
Oh, that's funny. Oh my goodness. Well, I have certainly enjoyed the conversations I've had with you. I know you're there with James, and you guys do the Atheist Christian Book Club. How did Dr. Walker get in touch with you and say, "Hey, Bill, I got an idea. Let's just shake things up a little bit and have genuine conversations with people that completely disagree"? How'd that start?
Oh, it's been fantastic. And thanks to James and Watchman Fellowship for all they do. And they've been instrumental in my, crisis here. Actually, Eric, to be honest with you, it's not a crisis anymore. I am a theist. I do believe in God. Full stop.
Whoa. So are you, this is completely for real. You're not pulling my chain here.
Of course not. No.
Okay. So,
I've had the crisis for 2 months. I know we haven't talked about my converting to theism, but I just feel that that's where the evidence leads. And you and me both are all about the evidence, correct?
I do love looking at it, and I'm looking forward to get into that conversation about some of the evidence. So, well, man, that's like, wow, that's pretty. I know you've been struggling with that, and to hear just that is encouraging. You're going to have to give us the story, the background of what's made you kind of go through that. But let's finish with Watchman Fellowship real quick. How did you guys get started?
James and I just decided to do a book club 6 years ago. Our first book was Hugh Ross's book. And, we've done an atheist book and Christian book. We've had Bart Ehrman on, Dale Allison. We've had Danny Faulkner on, who is a big friend of yours. But the key thing in my conversion has been the influence of Daniel Ray, who is on staff here at Watchman, who led me to Luke Barnes, who has big impact on me. His book, A Fortunate Universe, is what pretty much changed my mind.
This is really cool. Now, by the way, Daniel, guys, if you have not listened to the podcast from Watchman Fellowship, you've got to go listen. Daniel does such a good job of producing his voice, everything, the music. I'm like, this is one you want to listen to. So you're going to want to check out Watchman Fellowship's podcast if you guys don't already do that. It's that is just a pure joy to listen to Daniel. And Daniel is a deep thinker, isn't he? He's one that he's
Absolutely.
like, I would get down.
What's interesting, 4 months ago, Daniel went to the Atheist book club, which I've attended for 15 years, which is just atheist. It's like going into the lion's den. And he did a tremendous presentation. And he mentioned the fine structure constant. And right then, Richard Feynman, the great physicist, said that every physicist should put this number 1 over 137 on a board and worry. And it worried me, because this fine structure constant, 1 over 137, appears throughout physics. And if this thing is off by 4%, you don't get carbon and oxygen formed. It's just vital to chemistry. And there are lots of these. Obviously, the fine-tuning argument is what finally pushed me to theism. So there's so many things I'll just mention 2 of them. The strong nuclear force. This is what holds protons and neutrons together by gluons. So how in the world, and it's like 1,800 times or whatever, vastly stronger than the gravitational or electromagnetic force. So how does this just come about? And here's the thing, if it's 2% stronger, you just get the periodic table, but no hydrogen. And hydrogen, obviously H2O, is kind of important. Plus stars burn hydrogen and fuse it into helium. Also, if it's 5% weaker, you only get hydrogen. You don't get the periodic table, which contains carbon, which is what's kind of important for us. So you'll just get protons bumping into each other, So the initial conditions of the universe are just supremely important, as well as obviously the forces of electromagnetism, the 4 forces of nature, strong nuclear and weak force, and gravitational and electromagnetic forces.
Now, you've studied this long enough, though. You know that from the atheist perspective, they would say, well, that just happens to be the way it is because it has to be that way. So,
brute fact, baby.
How would you argue as an atheist, and then how would you counter yourself now?
Well, now that I'm a theist in the last 10 minutes or so, it's going to be an adjustment, Eric, I tell you. But they go to multiverse. Well, first of all, they go to brute fact. It's just a brute fact. But there's so many brute facts, Eric, like the Pauli exclusion principle, where these electrons have just shells and orbits which they inhabit. And there's only certain amount, the 288 rule, that they only inhabit certain levels. How does that come about by chance? And, I ask atheists these questions, and just like at the book club, it just kind of blows by them. I don't think they really think about it. And I don't know if you're aware of this, Eric, but atheists sometimes convert for emotional reasons. Have you ever noticed that?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
So
there's a lot of emotion in atheism, and honestly, Bill, that's one of the things that I loved when we had our last conversation right here in this room. And I've always appreciated our conversations because you're going, hey, I'm just trying to look at the facts. And at the time, it was Dale Allison. Jesus, I don't think he really was God, And that's right where you were at that time 2 years ago. But you've always looked at the facts. And that's different because you get in arguments online with atheists, and there's a lot of emotional atheists that really
absolutely.
are mad at God. Well, I'll say they're mad at God. I don't know if you would say the same thing, but I'll say, man, they're just
obviously,
they want to do what they want.
Obviously, they've had things in their life that have transitioned them to a non-belief in God. In my case, it was basically, who knows how I became an atheist, to be honest. I mean, when I was in Sunday school class, and one of my fellow Sunday school people said, hey, Bart Ehrman's going to be at the Barnes & Noble. And I went, who's Bart Ehrman? So I go there and read every book and so forth. And maybe it's Christopher Hitchens, his elegance, who knows why I landed. So it's not always for good objective reasons. I don't think I just looked at everything objectively and said, well, due to the preponderance of the evidence, I now become an atheist. I don't know how, but I have looked very carefully at the evidence for creation and God, and that's the side I'm falling on. Sorry,
No, this is
atheist. I
interesting.
hate to disappoint you.
Wow, I know this is fascinating to me. And by the way, this isn't just you're trying to write a book and make money off of Christians, is it? Like Bill,
Yeah.
let's be honest here.
No,
No.
of course not. No.
Okay.
It's like I'm
So
drifting in the wilderness.
yeah. No, this is fascinating because I'm curious your journey. So you had told me Bart Ehrman, one of the main influences. You read his work and you're like, wow, I was brought up. Now, would you? Let me back up. Would you say that when you were brought up in Sunday school and in church, because you were in church for 30 years, right?
Oh yeah, a long time, 40. Yeah, I'm sorry.
40 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
about
40
40
years.
years I became to slip away. Yeah.
Do you think that you were brought up on, well, you just have to have faith? It was just a blind faith, and that's what made it easy for Bart and Christopher and others to be like, hey, this isn't true. And you're going, oh, wait, I've never really studied this out. Maybe this isn't true. Like, how would you describe that looking back?
Well, here's where atheists go wrong, is they say faith is believing without evidence. That's crazy. There's lots of evidence for Christianity. You don't have to go through Paul saying, look, I met 500 people that are still alive today that saw a resurrected Jesus. You have it happening birthed in Jerusalem where it could be easily falsified. That even someone like Paul Ennis would say, hey, look, you do have Peter and Paul that, maybe died for their faith. You have James, his own brother, that is skeptical. So James and Paul being skeptics, converting to their faith. So there is a lot of evidence for Jesus' resurrection. And well, look at Gary Habermas just wrote 1,000 and 2,000 page book. Yeah. So that's where they go wrong. And obviously, I am a historicist, so I do believe in the historical Jesus for a number of reasons. The criteria of embarrassment, it's embarrassing for Jesus to be baptized by John. Multiple attestation, we have Q document, which is debated and all that, but we have the M source, Matthew's M source, Luke's M source, and the Gospels themselves that do attest to a historical Jesus.
See, I love it that you've actually gone, let me dive in, let me learn this stuff. How many books so 40 years in the church, how long with the Atheist Christian Book Club? That's 6 years now?
6 years we've been doing it, yeah.
6 years, and it's pretty much a book a month, plus you do plenty of other reading and study, correct?
Yes, I do. Eric, you and me have spent so much time in this. I was in the young earth, old earth thing, and I learned so much more than I ever learned in school. That's why, and I know this is going to be controversial, but why not have a creationist come and once a month teach in school? And why not have a debate where the students can take either side, theist, atheist, young earth, old earth, and have this outside of the class on YouTube, have it on a Saturday at class. Just calm down, atheist. It's okay to have a creationist come in and give their point of view. And that's where you're going to learn. Like, Eric, the carbon-14 dating, where is that good to? How good?
50,000 years, maybe 100,000 max, but really 50,000 years.
So you know this, you've learned this stuff, probably not in school, but look how much you've learned by having this debate. You know about genetics, and we discussed ERVs, and Donnie was standing for truth, and he wrote a whole book. So you can come, whatever way you come down, you're going to learn a lot about radiometric dating. I didn't know anything about physics till Daniel Ray turned me on to, the cosmological constant and so forth. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
So, a 6-year journey reading books both from Christians and atheists, and you've gone back and forth. I've got you a clip of you asking. Who's the guy you love again on Jesus? The
Bill Ellison, the atheist best friend.
Yeah. I grabbed his clip from your Atheist Christian Book Club. Kent, it's about a minute long. Kent, would you mind playing this clip real quick?
Play it.
If you don't have a first Adam, that impacts the atonement. Because what does Paul say? That Adam was the first one where sin came into the world. Jesus came and did away with sin. So Without a foundation, can you have a viable Christian faith without a foundation in Genesis?
Wow. Okay. So now you're asking me not to play historian, but theologian. I'm not a professional theologian, but I haven't thought of a question like that. I have to be honest, in decades. So I decided a long time ago that Genesis is not history, but it's something else. And so it has to be interpreted as metaphor or parable or mytho-history or something like that. If you're asking, does Paul himself think there was a real Adam? Yes, I think he does. I think he read it as most Christians have read it down through the ages.
I found that fascinating, and
Isn't
I love
that
it.
fascinating?
You keep bringing this up to the Christians that are old earthers, and I'm like, no, this is like that conversation was what, a year ago, 2 years ago? With Dale Allison?
James, about 2 years. So here's the thing. You got one of the top 5 scholars in the world, Dale Allison, who doesn't have a clue about, the old earth, young earth debate. He just doesn't cross his radar. It's like these guys are so focused on their specialty with good reason. But how about broaden it out a little bit, And that's in Christians, in scholarship of the Old New Testament, you have someone that doesn't know. So how in the world, the problem, Eric, is to know this stuff. You've got to know Hebrew, Greek, paleontology, biology, chemistry, physics. All these impact the question, does God exist? So we can't be experts in every field. So we just have to rely on people who have specialty. And I'm going with you as far as your hermeneutic on Genesis. I think older people do exegetical gymnastics and torture the text to cram millions of years into these days. I think, like you believe, evening and morning, one day, evening, I think the text is clear that it's talking about literal 6 days. And if you add up the genealogy, 6,000, it doesn't matter. It's not billions of years according to the Genesis accounts.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting that you say that. Paul Inns, currently calls himself former Christian, now atheist, big time on YouTube with Apologia, would say the same thing, would say, listen, if you're going to believe it, you got to go with young earth creation. And that's one of his reasons for saying I got to reject it, because he's looking at, what he's seen in science and saying, I think science proves it's old, therefore I can't believe the Bible. He's realizing you can't merge these two together. And that's, honestly, Bill, that's one of my biggest frustrations right now is I was just watching another clip yesterday of a very famous apologist dogging on young earth creation. And I'm like, do you not understand what you're doing here? Like, think about this holistically. And that's really what you did. You're going, wait a minute, if you're talking about Jesus dying for sin, well, then where did Jesus come from? I mean, he had to come from a historical, there has to be real history tied to this. And I love that.
And that's the thing. If you go, like William Lane Craig believes in mytho-history, that Heidelbergensis man is the original Adam 700,000 years ago, and you just get into all sorts of thorny problems because as you so well articulated. I watched your debate with Inspiring Philosophy, and you did such a fantastic job. You really did explain the dilemma very well. But if you unhinge Genesis, then you have a problem because some of the foundational aspects, like the atonement, directly relate to Genesis. Jesus' credibility. He talked about Noah and in the beginning, just like you've articulated. So you really have a problem if you cram those millions of years into Genesis.
A sharp mind, Bill. You are a sharp mind indeed. I'm fascinated by this journey because I know you told me a couple months ago I've been having a crisis of faith in atheism.
Yes.
And for you to come here and say, "Hey, I'm a theist now," I'm like, okay, I'm ready for our conversations to.
Hey, I'm still not used to it, Eric. I'm still getting used to it. When you say that, it just kind of.
Wow. Okay.
It just kind of feels weird,
No, but you are the kind of former atheist, I guess, that I appreciated the conversations. Even in our conversation here, I really did. I loved it because you're actually being honest with the information, and you're saying there's problems.
So are you. Yeah.
So What is it that you find most unsatisfying right now about the atheist worldview? What are some of you've mentioned the fine tuning of the universe. I think of that as the intelligent design type argument. There's got to be an intelligent designer that would lead you to theism, not specifically Christianity, but to theism. What are some of the things you find unsatisfying about the atheistic worldview right now?
Well, obviously, the moral argument, we've talked about this without, a foundation, you're just kind of all over the place and you can't really trust your own opinion. I mean, you're normal. I mean, you're just human, so how am I going to go and be an authority on morality or whatever? And you're familiar with the evolutionary argument against naturalism, that if we evolved through happenstance, random, just to survive, how in the world can I place my trust in my own thinking? And we know we have biases, confirmation bias. We have all sorts of problems with our thinking. Now, it's pretty good. We've got cell phones and spaceships and so it has some good things, but it has flaws. We tend to do fast thinking instead of slow thinking. We tend to jump to conclusions too fast, like I did with atheism. I think I just didn't really think it through. I think I just jumped into it for a who knows what reason.
Wow. Well, and that's, again, I appreciated that you, even as, 2 years ago, sitting here with me, said, we got lots of things we can't answer. Oh, we don't know that. Oh yeah, we don't have a foundation for morality. Oh, we don't have meaning. I got no meaning. That's one of my big things with you on every phone call we have is like what is your meaning? What is if there is no God, what are you doing thinking about this? Why would you even entertain this? I mean, I asked you that many times on the phone and you would say, well, I just think it's interesting. And I'm
well,
like,
existentially, I mean, how do you get meaning? I mean, I get a lot of meaning from pickleball. I mean, I'm like obsessed with it. I play it like 20 hours a week, but is that going to make my life meaningful in some ways? But, I just really don't have a job, so it's like, how do you find meaning, Eric? I mean, you tell me.
oh man, I find it by doing what the Creator designed me to do, which is glorify Him, which is making Him look good in every situation, honoring and obeying Him, Bill. And that is really where meaning comes from, is when you realize you're designed for His glory, not your own. And so when you play, it doesn't mean you stop playing pickleball. It just means you play pickleball.
Is that right?
It means you play pickleball for His glory and you praise God for the body He's given you, and you talk to the person you're playing with and tell them, hey, I beat you, I'm good, but let's go. You get to buy dinner again because I beat you, but God's good.
Hey, so, you can beat me. You got a 9-point lead.
9
but
point,
yeah, I think
I'll use all of it.
Yeah,
I said I'll use all of that advantage. I'll take it.
Okay, good. But yeah, we've had just a number of great talks, and it's just fascinating. Whatever side you come on, by getting into apologetics and listening to your channel and the Atheist, like Apologia, I learn a lot of stuff, and it's just so informative, and there's so much to learn. New Testament scholarship, physics, which has just been fascinating. Like the cosmological constant, which drives the dark energy of the universe. That's fine-tuned to 10 to the 120th. And I think these numbers just kind of, blow past you, but that is just incredible. The gravitational constant, 10 to the 40th. I mean, these masses and things like the mass of the electron, 9.10938, 10 times 10 to the minus 31st. Why is that mass or the charge of the electron? And it's basically electrons and quarks. You have one up quark and two down quarks that make the neutron. Two down up quarks and one down quark is going to make the proton. So how in the world does that happen to chance? And it has to be right, because if you don't get these quarks and electrons just right, you are not going to have a universe. You can go pump to a multi-universe, but you're still got to have something, initial constants right for that, correct?
Yeah. Okay, so this is cool. So science, would you say that science more than theology has led you to this conclusion?
Yes.
Because right now you're saying, okay, so right now you're just looking at science going, there's a creator. There is I am a theist. There is a God out there. Where do you go from here? I got a few minutes. I want you to answer that, and then I want you to give me one
Well,
thought for
Eric, as
your
we all
atheist
know,
friends.
no one ever died on the hill of the ontological argument. So the ontological argument is great, but it just isn't fulfilling for a lot of atheists. So the fine tuning is what did it,
Mm,
plain and simple, you know.
nice.
So,
So
and where do I
science
go from
led you
here?
there.
Where do I
Yeah.
go from here, Eric? I mean, to be floating on a meaningless existential universe where you're trying to just eke out some sort of meaning somewhere and trying to validate yourself and your purpose and so forth. Now that I have a belief in God, where do I go? I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, you got Dr. Walker right there, and he wrote the
But
book
by the
that
way, let
has.
me introduce you to James, who,
Yeah.
and I'd like to thank him personally for helping me with this new faith, which he just found out just recently, right, James? Thank you.
I suspected it.
You got
He never came
Doctor-
out and directly
get
said
those-
it until right now. So, but yeah, we suspected that, and we've had
It's been
a
about
lot
2
of
months since I
conversations.
announced it, right? So I didn't just want to rush into things. I wanted to really think this through, Eric. And
Yeah.
James has been here for me, been a great friend, and has just really helped me on my journey. As with Watchman Fellowship, your whole staff, Brady,
Yeah.
and of course Daniel Ray, the whole initiator of this problem. I guess whatever.
I love it. Dr. Walker, how have you seen the Atheist Christian Book Club? Have you seen anybody else like Bill there go wobble back and forth on their atheism and get pushed over? Or is this kind of like, wow, this has been a 6-year journey and we got one?
Well, until Bill, no official conversions either way.
No.
We've had no Christians
Okay.
becoming atheists and no atheists becoming Christians until this announcement today, I guess. But it's like what I have seen in the book club is movement. And so, one of the atheists from the early days of the book club was raised atheist, didn't have a Christian background, and had no understanding really of traditional biblical studies or anything like that. And after being in the club for about 6 or 8 months, he has this long discussion about the synoptic problem and the particular issues on the inspiration of the Bible and the trustworthiness of it and stuff like that. I'm thinking, how could he even be having this conversation? Well, it's been 8 months of reading both sides.
Right.
And so my own interest in the book club and the reason when Bill met me and said, well, we need to do something, to have this conversation. And I'm thinking that one of my issues is being president of Watchman Fellowship and being involved in full-time like Christianity, professional Christianity, I guess you could call it. There's a problem of we can get into this echo chamber where I'm around Christians all the time, and every church I speak in, they affirm what I'm saying, and but I'm not. Not just am I not having gospel conversations with lost people, I'm not having any kind of conversation. I don't have time. I mean, my professional Christianity is getting in the way. So the book club was for me a way of forcing me at least one day out of the month. I'm going to be in a room, either a virtual room or an actual room of atheists and Christians, and we're going to be looking at some of the best books from both perspectives. So it kind of forces me to do what I ought to be doing anyway. And what you find out, Eric, is that all of my ideas sound great in church, okay? But when you're in a room full of well-read atheists who are philosophically thinking, you find out some of your arguments are maybe better than other arguments. And so you go back and fine tune it a little bit. I hope it's made me a better thinker.
Are you saying iron sharpens iron?
Iron sharpens iron. And so but the other thing that you learn on it, Eric, is a lot of what we have is caricatures of what people are. And so you have this idea of the stereotypical atheist is going to be about this age, and we Christians have this idea, probably a little angry. We have all these ideas, and what you find out is real atheists are not the caricatures.
Hey, by the way, Eric, I'd like to announce that Kelly from Godless Granny is obviously, I've got to recuse myself from the club next month because I'm now a theist. But she's still holding on to the faith. She's still an atheist, and she's going to be hosting. And brilliant girl, a lawyer. She has her own channel, Godless Granny, and I'd like to thank her for hosting the club next month. Also, it's interesting. Last night I was having a little chat with the atheist on Atheist Junior's channel. And one of my complaints with atheism is we don't do community, or I got to think in the past, the atheists don't do community like the theists do. And the problem is you go to Metroplex Atheist, old guys, with one weird old guy. And then I go to the atheist book, and it's like just all old guys with one, woman. It's just, your guys are never going to, get the marketing right or whatever, as long as you have that. And then the Atheist Junior said, well, are you the old weird guy? So I went, oh, that's good. So anyway, that was on last night. So that'll be interesting. That was my last moments as an atheist, I guess.
Wow. Well, hey guys, I got to let social media go. Hang out real quick because I want to just let my partners ask you guys questions, because I do find this fascinating. We want real change. We know we have the truth, and I know that I can prove God. I can prove Christianity. I can prove Jesus. I can prove these things, but that doesn't always equal persuasion. So I want to talk a little bit about that with both of you guys right after this. Hey, social media, thank you guys for joining me. I got to let you go. To our television audience and podcast audience, thank you so much for tuning in. This is exciting for me. I mean, this announcement for me really kind of slapped me sideways. I didn't realize Bill was going to come on and announce his final rejection of atheism to theism, which has been a long process. So really excited about that. Would love for you to hear more from him. You can do that on the Atheist Christian Book Club with Dr. James Walker and Bill Kluck, or you can come over here to Creation Today, partner with us, help us spread the gospel in what we do as well. And Dr. Walker with Watchman Fellowship, they do monthly support as well to keep their organization running. So anyway, we can work together, partner together. We'd love that. Watchman Fellowship is certainly worthy of your support as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next week. Next week, I'm just going raw, me, unfiltered. I just want to answer some questions the way I want to answer them. So I thought, you know what? Let me talk. Don't know how that's going to go. I'm a little nervous about some of the things I might say when I get unfiltered. So we shall see what happens next week. If you got a question for me, send that in to comments@creationtoday.org, comments@creationtoday.org for that unfiltered episode next week. Well, thank you guys. Until next Wednesday, please go share the gospel with somebody who needs to hear it.
Hey, thanks, Eric, and looking forward to seeing you down in Pensacola, baby.